So while you guys are grabbing your blocks,
Dress shoes.
hey, that works. Whatever you got, right?
Got my blocks.
And Delana, I know you have daddy long arms, so if if you feel like you don't need to use them, then you don't need to use them, but at least you have them in case you do want to.
Just take
So,
off my
good evening. It is Wednesday. I am Brooke Blankenship, and we are here for Wednesday evening Karma Yoga. Today we are going to be really working some heat into our joints safely, of course, but really just strengthening in those joints and really just focusing our attention on um, warming them up and keeping them healthy and strong and agile. Okay. So we're going to begin on child's pose on our mats. You may choose to keep your knees together if that is more comfortable for you to lay your chest on your knees, or you can keep your knees out wide. So try both, see what feels best in your body this evening. And then make your way into child's pose. So we're just going to start here, coming into our breath. Feeling the hips maybe sinking a little bit deeper with each inhale and exhale. Allowing the belly to be full, rounded. And just taking a moment here to come into the space, find your breath. I know you two, it's probably been a very busy day, so just taking a moment to feel how you feel. Check in with the body. Check in with the breath. Pressing down through the fingertips and maybe inching those fingertips just a little bit farther up the mat. Creating some stretch in that underarm and the top of the shoulders. And then keeping your hips down towards your heels, walking your hands up. So we're going to come into a thread the needle pose. So lifting the right fingertips up towards the sky, looking up at the hand, and then threading the right hand underneath the left, really laying down into that right shoulder, taking the left fingertips, walking them out to the top of the mat, staying here and breathing into that shoulder stretch. And then walking the left fingertips back towards the face,
And then bringing that left hand, the back of the hand, to rest on the small of the back, maybe even inching it over towards that right side. And bringing a little bit of twist, opening up that left shoulder to the sky. Untwisting, coming back through center, and then to the other side. So we're going to place that right hand down. Left fingertips are going to come up towards the sky. Watch them as they flow underneath, resting on that left shoulder. And then walking the right fingertips out to the top of the mat. And then bringing that right hand to the small of the back, maybe even walking those fingertips over, and then opening up that shoulder to the ceiling. Untwisting, coming back through center, coming back up. Now we're going to come into melted heart pose. So this is one that we don't do a lot. But melted heart, we're going to come up onto our knees. And we're going to bring our hands out like we're in that child's pose. And then we're just going to keep allowing our hands to melt forward, to slide forward as our head and our heart melt towards the mat. Maybe your chin or your forehead touches. Maybe you can get your chest to touch. Feeling that stretch through the shoulders. And also through the front of the chest. And then sliding all the way forward, we're going to come into a low cobra. So bringing the tops of the feet, okay, lifting your foot up, and I want you to really stretch it back and then lay it down with the top of the foot down. So lifting the foot up, stretching it back, and then laying it down. Now bring those hands right underneath of your shoulders. Lightly press into the floor as you round through the mid and upper back, okay? So we're keeping our gaze just slightly in front of us, maybe 6 inches or so as not to hurt the neck. We still want the neck and the spine in line with the head. And then lowering down, allowing the cheek to come to rest on the ground. We're going to come up into that cobra pose one more time. So on your next exhale, press the hands lightly into the floor and pull the heart forward. Lowering the opposite cheek down to the ground. Sliding both hands forward now and rising up onto the elbows. We're going to come into Sphinx pose, okay? So pressing down through the tops of the feet again. Press down through the tops of the feet. The shoulders and the elbows should be in line, okay? pressing down into the hands, pressing the fingers down as well. And then again, pulling that chest and heart through, almost like you're trying to pull your heart through your arms. Keeping the gaze out slightly in front of you. Lowering down, bring the hands out wide, rest that head on the hands. And then finding your way into a tabletop position. So we're going to begin warming up the spine with our cat and cow. So inhaling, allowing that belly to drop to the floor, pulling the chest through just like we did in Cobra and in Sphinx pose. And then taking a big breath in, okay? Big breath in. Exhale, round into cat. Belly button pulls in towards the spine. Inhale, cow. Exhale, cat. Cow. Cat. One more, cow. And cat. Return into that neutral spine. And this one's my favorite, peanut butter jelly. So pretend like your body is the knife and you are trying to get all the peanut butter out of that jar. So keep twirling around. When you've gone 3 times or so, switch and go the other direction. And after your 3rd time, coming back to neutral. So I'm just going to take a minute to come to my knees so I can talk to you guys for just a second. We're going to stretch out our wrists. This is an area that we tend to forget about a lot and we don't stretch a lot. So it's an area that's very, very weak for me. I need to remember to better stretch them. So just be really gentle with yourself on these stretches, okay? Don't overdo it because, you know, there's sensitive little ligaments in there, okay? So we're gonna come into our cat-cow, and the very first thing that we're gonna do is turn our hands so that our fingers are facing the outside, okay? So nice neutral spine here. If this is feeling okay for you, keep turning the hands. We're going to keep turning the hands, and maybe we can turn them all the way around so that the fingers are facing the knees. Again, being really careful with our wrists here, okay? Trying to put most of your weight into your backside, and that way you're not putting undue pressure on those wrists. So I'm going to invite you now to kind of explore how this feels with having the underbelly of your forearm facing forward, maybe moving around a little bit, kind of like we did with that peanut butter and jelly, but this time just being a little bit more gentle and slow. And maybe this feels really good to you, okay? So maybe sinking back into it, okay? Really stretching through that wrist, the underbelly of the wrist and the forearm. And then once you've had enough, turning back around, maybe taking a moment to shake out the wrists. Now we're going to take our wrists, the back of our hands, and set them down on the floor. Again, this is an awkward stretch for us, so please be very careful and gentle with yourself, okay? So again, you might want to find a little rocking, just exploring how that feels. And then turning that wrist back over. Other side, bringing the back of the hand down to the ground. Nice deep breathing. And then flipping it back over. Okay, so cupcakes. This is something that I picked up from my new mentor in 500. But I have directed you guys before to pretend like you're making a cave, for your cupcake. You're trying to protect your cupcake with a little cage, your little hand cage. So I want you to do that same thing. Bring your hands a little bit out in front of you. And I want you to really press down into your fingertips, okay? Pressing down through the fingertips so that you fire up all of the muscles in the hands and the wrists. Nice deep breaths. And then releasing, coming back to a regular tabletop. Let's take a moment and just stretch out our wrists. Flick them out, roll them around. Waking up the joints and the fingers and the hands. All right. And, one more I really like to do too is to stretch the thumb. So holding your hand out in front of you with your thumb raising up, taking the fingertips and then just pulling that thumb, just pulling it just slightly towards the face. As soon as you do, you'll feel that whole tendon right there turn on. Shaking it out and going to the opposite hand. So holding the hand out, thumb pointing up to the sky, wrapping the fingers of the opposite hand around, and then pulling that thumb towards the face. Breathing into the stretch. Letting it go, rolling it out. All right, and then the last thing that we're gonna do in our tabletop position is warming up those hips. So starting with your right leg, we're gonna use our knee. So point your toe, use your knee to draw a circle. And then switch and go the other direction. Set it down. Left knee comes up, point the toe, draw the circle with the knee. Switch directions. Feeling the heat and the fire in that joint. Waking up the femur and that ball and socket. and then sending it back down. So we're going to come into our downward facing dog. So flipping the toes. I like to bring my hands slightly out in front of me. And then coming up into our down dog, coming with a straight leg first, okay? Or no, sorry, the bent legs. So come in with bent legs so you can push down, okay, into all four corners of the fingers, of the hands. So pushing down so you can feel that little cave-like action happening underneath of your palm. And then I want you to externally rotate your arms. So think about your elbows going out towards the tops of your mat, or like you're turning off a faucet with your left hand and turning on a faucet with your right hand, okay? So once we get that support in the arms and the shoulders, then we can try to straighten the legs. Maybe starting one at a time. Seeing how this feels in our body this evening. And then finding some stillness in your downward facing dog. If this is bothering your wrists, or if down dog ever bothers you in your wrists, you have an option to use blocks underneath of your hands. I want you to try it now just so you can see how it feels, okay? So put your blocks underneath of your hands, and I want you to take your hands and put your palm toward the end of the block so that your fingers are hanging over. And feel the difference in your down dog. So you guys are all muted right now, but you should be able to feel, just with your hands coming up onto those blocks, a little less pressure on the wrists. Okay, so just an option for you. Good to know. Things that I've learned that I'd like to share. So coming back into your downward facing dog. This time I want you to bring your right leg up behind you, high and strong. Now bring the knee to the right elbow. Bring it back up. Bring the knee to the nose and back up. Bring the knee to the left and back up. To the nose and back up. To the right and back up. And then last time, bring it through, set it down. Okay? So we're going to come into crescent to begin with here, a modified crescent. So tracking the knee and the ankle, and then coming up. If you have weak knees here, you're welcome to add some extra padding in the back. But I really want you to engage into the joints and the muscles in the legs here. And how I'd like you to do that is by pressing down, Pada Bandha, in the foot, okay? So pressing down into the foot, into all four corners of the foot, and then maybe even, you don't have to make them go way up, but just raising your toes a little bit off the mat, okay? When you do this, you're gonna immediately feel the inner and the outer thigh start to turn on, fire start to happen there, and also the quad, okay? So now I want you to work on isometrically moving the inner thighs towards one another, okay? So how we're gonna do that is taking your back foot and pressing it into the ground, pressing the top of that foot into the ground, and then pressing the four corners of the right foot into the ground, maybe lifting up those toes just slightly, feeling those inner thighs working towards one another. Bringing the hands up by the sides. Excellent job. Now bringing those hands down, finding your blocks, okay? We're gonna find our blocks and make our way back into half splits. So this time, I want you to slide your foot forward a little bit so it's a little bit more comfortable, okay? Our toe is actually gonna come up towards the face. As soon as you do that, you should feel the whole back of that leg turn on and fire up. So staying here, or maybe you walk your blocks a little bit farther out and lean over that foot. Really breathe into the stretch. So there's lots of options here to make this pose feel right in your body. Remember, your left hip is going to want to come back towards the back of the mat. So try to bring that left hip to the same plane as the right, okay? They should be in line, parallel with the top of your mat. Breathing into it. And then coming forward, we're going to drop the blocks to the side or to the front. And then I want you to bring your left foot up to meet your right, okay? Left foot up to meet your right. Halfway lift, unfold. Rise all the way up, root to rise. Hands to the heart. Inhale up. Exhale, fold. Halfway lift, fold. Step it back to plank and through your vinyasa. High plank to low. Upward facing dog. And back to downward facing dog. This time we're going to take that left knee into the left elbow and back out. Middle to the nose and back out. Right and back out. Middle and back out. Left, back out. And this time setting it down in between the hands, dropping that back knee and finding your modified crescent here, okay? So again, we want the knee and the heel in line with one another. I am pressing down into all four corners of my foot and just lifting my toes slightly on my left side. So I'm feeling that inner and outer thigh engage, the whole quad engage, okay? Pressing into the back, the top of my foot in the back of the mat. Feeling that isometric movement of the thighs. And then bringing the hands up by the sides. Beautiful job, ladies. And then finding those blocks again, we're going to come into that half splits once more. So walking your foot forward a little bit and then bringing those toes up towards the face, turning on and firing up all of those muscles in the back of the leg. Adjusting your hips. Remember, your right hip is going to want to go back. Bring it forward. You want it parallel with the top of your mat. And when you do that, you should feel a little bit more fire in the back of that leg too, okay? That means you're in proper alignment. So now stay here, or maybe you fold a little bit, walking the hands out over the leg. Breathing into the stretch, imagining that you're able to gain a little bit more flexibility with each inhale. And then removing your blocks off to the side. Coming forward, we're going to step forward now into our forward fold, okay? So stepping forward into forward fold, halfway lift and fold. Rise all the way up, hands to the heart. Inhale up and fold. Halfway lift, step it back, high plank to low. Knees, chest, chin, or high plank to low. Upward facing dog. Back to downward facing dog. Left foot comes forward this time. And we're going to come into a modified lizard lunge. So feel free to drop that back knee if that is more comfortable for you here. I want you to stay up on your fingertips or on your hand, okay? But move your right fingertips forward a little bit to the top corner of the mat, okay? And then we're going to allow the hand or the elbow to come to the leg and maybe help to move it outwards a little bit. So in a modified lizard lunge here, bringing the hands back down, coming back up on that back knee if you stayed off of it or you went down on it, okay? And then coming into an open twist. So just allowing that left hand to come up to the sky. And then bringing that left hand down to the mat, stepping that left foot back and going through your vinyasa. High plank to low, upward facing, and back to downward facing. Right foot comes forward this time in between the hands. Walking that left hand out towards the top corner of the mat. And then finding your lizard lunge here. So keeping that back knee elevated or dropping it down, pressing into the back of the foot, and then maybe giving that knee a little push towards the right side of your mat. Excellent job, ladies. Bringing that knee back up, coming back up. And we're going to come into that wide open twist, okay? So bringing that right hand up towards the sky, pressing through the left foot. And then bringing that right hand back down and finding your vinyasa through your flow or meeting straight back in downward facing dog, yogi's choice. So bringing that right foot forward this time. Oh, I'm sorry, left foot forward. Left foot forward, rising up into a warrior one. So warrior one, check in with your feet. I like to keep my feet on railroad tracks here instead of on a balance beam. Okay, so a little bit of space in between them. So your front toes are obviously facing the top of the mat. Your knee and your heel are tracking together. Back toes are facing in a little bit, okay? So pigeon toeing them in a little bit. And then we want to move that right hip up so that it's in line with the left hip. And then lifting up the hands, pulling that belly button into the spine, dropping the shoulders away from the ears. And then we're going to come down into a supported side plank, okay? So bringing all of your both hands down to the ground, we're going to turn all of our toes towards the left side of the mat. Right hand comes up. You can move that left foot back, okay? So it's giving you that support. Should be in line with your hips. And then you can press into that foot and lift up, and then maybe find that full extension. Bringing that left hand back down to the mat through your vinyasa or straight back to downward facing dog, yogi's choice. Really pressing in through the hands, finding that cave-like feeling underneath of the palms. And then bringing that right foot forward and rising up into our warrior one. Bringing the hands down on either side of the foot. This time we're going to turn all 10 toes back to the opposite side of the mat. And then bringing that right arm up to the sky, adjusting that right foot if you need to. Okay, so that it's in line with the hips and can really give you that leverage to press into the foot. And then bring that right hand back down, coming into your plank pose and lowering all the way to the belly. Bringing the hands down by the sides, giving yourself a moment to rest in our belly down savasana. Big breath in. Open the mouth and let it go. Again, big breath in. Let it go. One more time. Big breath in. And let it go as you rise up into plank pose. Step the right foot forward. Rise up again into warrior one. Big breath in. Let it go. Big breath in. Let it go. Last time. Big breath in. Let it go. Come back down to plank pose. Step the right foot back. And then open up into side plank. So again, we're pressing into all four corners of that hand. Maybe you challenge yourself and bring both feet together. Maybe you give yourself that support again, okay? Giving yourself the support this way or coming down onto your knee. Either way is an acceptable modification, okay? This is the new way that I've just learned and I love it because I feel like it helps me get into my hips so good, okay? And then coming back and going through your vinyasa, high plank to low, upward facing, back to downward. Opposite side forward. So left foot is going to come forward in between the hands, rising up into warrior one. So finding any adjustments that you need to your feet. The one great thing about Zoom for me is that I actually really get to look at my alignment as I'm teaching you guys and look at, I can kind of see your alignment. I mean, you are like this big, but I can look at my alignment and help myself adjust so that you're seeing it correctly in my body, at least, of making sure that my knee and my ankle are tracking. Breathing into the pose. And then flowing the hands back down, stepping the foot back, and then coming into that full side plank again. Modifying it if you need to. If you do what's right for your own body, okay? Challenging yourself if you need it. You know what you need. And then coming back through plank and through your vinyasa. High plank to low, upward facing, back to downward. Last flow of the class. We are going to bring that left leg up one more time. Whoops. Bringing it through in between the hands. Lowering that back knee. We're going to come up into our crescent lunge again. Modified crescent lunge. So pushing in to all four corners of that left foot. Pushing it into the mat. Feeling those toes raise up a little bit. You should feel your arch raise up too, okay? And then you're gonna feel that inner thigh and the quad turn on. Now press into the back of the right foot. Press into that foot and feel that isometric movement of the inner thighs coming together. Now bringing the hands up by the sides. Big breath in. Exhale as you bring the hands down into goalposts. Inhale up. Exhale back down. Inhale up. Exhale back down. Now grabbing those blocks, we're going to come back into that half split again. So grabbing hold of your blocks. Maybe scooching that forward, that foot forward a little bit so that your knee and your hip can stay in line. And then flexing those toes toward your face, making sure that the right and the left hip are in line. That right hip really wants to float back there. Don't let it, okay? Pull it forward and really feel that fire building in the back of the leg. Breathe into that fire. Creating flexibility in the hamstring and strength in the quadricep. And in the hip flexor too, for sure. Moving the blocks off to the side, coming forward, stepping forward all the way forward with the right foot, hanging in a forward fold, halfway lift, and fold. Rise all the way up, hands to the heart. Other side, okay? So inhaling up, exhale, fold. halfway lift, and fold. Step it back to plank pose. Through your vinyasa, high plank to low or knees, chest, chin. Upward facing dog. Back to downward facing dog. Pressing into those hands, creating your little cave underneath your palm. And then this time, our right foot is going to come forward in between our hands. Oh, and lowering the back knee, rising up into our modified crescent lunge. So tracking our knee and our heel, pressing all four corners of that right foot into the ground, pressing it in there and lifting those toes up a little bit. Feel those inner and outer thighs turn on and the quadricep turn on, okay? Then pressing the back foot into the mat, bringing the hands up besides the ears. One more big breath in. As you let it go, find your blocks and slide that foot, that right foot forward. And then find your half splits in your body. So bringing those right toes toward the face, leveling out our hips, okay? Our hips should be in line with the front of our mat. Pressing into those blocks, maybe walking them out a smidge and allowing the chest to fold over the arm, over the leg. Feeling that flexibility happening in the back of the leg and the strengthening that's happening in the hip flexor and the quad. And then coming forward, ditching your blocks. Off to the side, bringing the left foot in to meet the right. Forward fold. And then I want you to heel toe your feet out to the edges of your mat. Pointing the toes out towards the corners. And we're going to bend those knees and come into Malasana, yogi squat. If this is a really, really uncomfortable pose for you, you have your blocks that you can stick under your tush. No one is watching or judging. Okay, so pressing, I like to use my elbows to press into my inner thighs and really feeling those outer hips opening up. Inner hips too, really, just all of the hips, the whole pelvis, just open it up. Breathing into it. And then bringing the hands down by the sides and gracefully making your way to your bottom. We're coming into cobbler's pose or butterfly. So bringing the feet out in front of you. And this is kind of a cool trick I just learned too. Taking your feet and turning them, okay? So you almost are putting the edges of your feet together and the soles of your feet are looking up at your face, okay? So from here, we can hinge from the hips and really pull ourselves forward towards our feet. Rising back up. Keep your right foot in towards your pelvis. Send the left foot out. Okay, we're gonna come from to head to knee pose. So turning those hips to face to the left leg, and then bringing those toes up towards the sky. So in this one, I want you to try something a little different today. Bringing your left fingertips behind you, and then taking your right hand up to the sky, and then reaching forward with your right hand. Then once you get there to your foot, your toes, your ankle, then bringing the left hand forward. And imagining that that head is getting a little bit closer to the knee with each breath. Walking the hands back up. We're going to come into double pigeon or fire log pose. So keeping the right knee bent just as it is, then bringing the left knee, left foot on top. Okay, so you're stacking the ankles and the knees on both sides. This is a lot easier for some of you guys than it is for me. Okay, but stacking our ankles and our heels together, our ankles and our knees together in our fire log pose or double pigeon. And then if it feels good to you, hinging from those hips again and finding a little forward fold action. Coming back up, sending the legs straight out and shaking them out. Then bringing that left foot in towards the groin, we are going to come into head to knee on the opposite side. So right foot is out, toes are facing towards the sky. We're going to turn that torso so that our torso is facing our right leg, okay? Taking the right hand behind you, sitting up nice and tall. Left hand comes up, and forward fold, finding maybe the toes or the ankle. And then once you lean, you can breathe into that, then maybe bringing that right. Maybe it feels good to you to leave your hand back there. It feels kind of good. So yogi's choice. You can bring your arm around or leave it right where it is. Wherever you are, sending the breath into the back of the leg and imagining that the head is just getting so much closer to the knee with every breath. Coming back up through center, we're going to find that double pigeon on the opposite side. So again, setting up so the ankles and the knees are stacked up one on top of the other. Bringing, I like to keep both of my feet flexed here just to keep my knees in check, okay? So both my feet flexed. And if this feels really good to you, it feels horrible to me, but it probably means I need to do it more. But if it feels really good to you, finding your way, making your way forward, folding over those legs, staying with your breath wherever you've chosen to go in this pose. Coming back up, unfolding the legs. We're gonna make our way down to our backs now with our feet bent, okay? So maybe coming into a little boat as we get there. Oh, touching the toes down, one by one. All right, and then making your way back down. So we're gonna come into bridge. I'm gonna pull myself forward so I don't hit the wall there. We're gonna come into bridge. You're gonna walk those feet in towards the buttocks, bringing the heels as close as you can in towards the butt, okay? And then pigeon toeing your feet just a little bit. I want you to bring your hands down by your sides for this one. And we're gonna move our hips up and our hands are gonna come back behind our head at the same time, okay? So it's gonna look like this. Breathing in and out. In and out. In and out. In, out. In, out. Excellent job, ladies. Walking those toes out to the edge of the mat, tenting the knees in together, allowing that lower back to just rest on the mat. Walking those feet back together. Lifting your left foot up to the sky, just bending that knee, bringing the right knee underneath and grabbing for that right foot with your left hand, okay? So bending that knee, bringing that foot by the butt, and then bringing that left knee over. We're gonna take our gaze out to the left as our knee falls to the right. Unwinding, coming back through center, both feet on the ground. This time the right knee is going to come up. Left foot is going to come underneath of you, grabbing it with the right hand. And allow that right knee to come over to the left. Gaze goes to the right. Unwinding, coming back through center. Finding any last movements that you need to in your own body before setting yourself up for your final resting pose. And then once you find your final resting pose, allowing the body to be completely still. To feel grounded by the earth beneath you. Cradled, supported.
What is your handicap? The golfer asked his partner. My childhood, said his companion. Some handicaps are physical, certain limitations placed on our bodies. Other handicaps are emotional, burdens of heartache from sad or abusive childhoods. Others may be dealing with current issues, perhaps facing a terminal illness or grieving an irreparable loss. After losing my son, I found myself at a point where I simply could no longer stand the agony of waiting for my pain to disappear. I knew that all my life I would miss him, and I became absolutely despondent. There is no way out of this, I thought. I'm spending my life waiting for this pain to disappear so I can begin living my life again. But the pain will never disappear, and I will never begin living my life again. That's when a gentle idea began to change my life. I began to understand that I was living and working with a handicap. The loss would always be there. The pain and the heartache would always be present. I could accept that, treat it as a handicap, and within that framework, go ahead and live my life once more. The moment I made that decision, my attitude and perspective changed. I was able to go on, able to move forward. Many of us are living with handicaps. Some will change over time, but others won't. And if that's the case, stop waiting for your handicap to disappear. Instead, decide to live with it, work around it. Treat yourself with care, with gentleness. Allow yourself to feel and experience all the limitations and emotions of your present situation. Then accept them. Let them be part of you, part of your experience. Despite living with a handicap, go ahead and treat yourself to life. Beginning to wiggle the fingers and the toes. Slowly bringing movement back into the body. Taking a big breath in and stretching the arms overhead. Nice long bodies. Maybe bringing the knees into the chest. Finding a little love for the low back, sacrum area. And then finding your way back up to seated in your own time. The light and the peace and the love inside my heart sees all the light and the love and the peace inside yours. Go forth with light and love and peace in your heart. Namaste. There you are. Oh, no, not you, Delina.